Welcome to Walking with Harper, Episode 2. Today I'm going to be taking you on a walk through Hailey Woods, and I'll be pointing out some of the historical, sometimes magical, features that one can see along the way. We start today's walk at the Tunnel House Inn, and the site of the Thames and Severn Canal. We begin by walking along the canal towpath heading towards an amazing feat of industrial engineering. Opened in 1789, this canal links two major rivers, the Severn and the Thames. It was built to open market access to London for businesses from Birmingham, Gloucester and Stroud. The builders had to work out a way of passing through the Cotswold Hills, so they decided to build this impressive tunnel. The tunnel, at the time, was the longest canal tunnel ever constructed in the United Kingdom, at 2.17 miles in length. Sadly, with the introduction of the railways, the canal stopped being used, and the last commercial traffic to use the tunnel was in May 1911. Not long after the tunnel became unsafe, and falls and collapses made the tunnel impassable to normal boat traffic. Today, Sapperton Tunnel remains impassable, with a number of significant roof falls and complete blockages near the Sapperton end. Sadly, the pub was also closed today when I visited, but normally this is a great place to get a pint. It's at this point you can enter the woodlands themselves. The woods are open access, with a number of different routes one can choose to take when walking through. Today I have chosen a route that's about 5 miles in length, but you would be able to pick your own route depending on your own ability. I highly recommend getting yourself OS Explorer map number 168, Stroud, Tetbury and Malmesbury to be able to navigate successfully. I also suggest that having a compass when walking in woodland is always a good idea, as one can very easily get disorientated. Don't rely on phone signal to be able to navigate, as large parts of this woodland have no reception. As you can see, I picked a lovely day to go for a walk, but the British weather can be changeable, so take a look at the forecast and take a raincoat if needed. It's not long until we get to our next historical feature. We spoke earlier about the railways being the demise of the canal, and we can now see them firsthand. This is the GWR's Kemble to Stroud line, and one can use this to get directly into London in less than 2 hours. This line cuts through the woodland, and this bridge is a great place to try and spot a train as they rush through. We now start to walk deeper into the woods. As you can see, this is a mixed woodland consisting of some traditional oak and hazel coppice, interlinked with large plantations of pine trees. At times this woodland was once well looked after, but currently it's going through a period of undermanagement. Imagine back in its heyday, this woodland would have been filled with the hustle and bustle of woodsmen working the lands to produce materials to drive this nation. Some of the trees cut down in this woodland may have even gone into the warships used at the Battle of Trafalgar. We've now managed to get to the centre of the woodland. At this point, all of the woodland's avenues meet in a central star. Be careful to pick the correct avenue when continuing on with your walk, as you can easily get turned around. Today's walk is also great for spotting wildlife. Today I saw a number of deer prancing through the undergrowth without a care in the world. It was a magical sight to see. When walking, I always like to try and be as quiet as possible. This allows me to truly embrace nature and be completely immersed within my surroundings. We're now getting close to my favourite part of the woods. If you want to visit this for yourself, head towards the southwest corner and see if you can stumble across it. It's not hard to find, now you know what to look for.
Welcome to the most magical part of Hailey Wood. This may just look like an avenue of trees, but really it's an ancient place of worship. These yew trees are hundreds and hundreds of years old. They have been planted here deliberately in this avenue. At the top end of the avenue is an yew tree that is even older than the others. It is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old. Yew trees traditionally have always been associated with places of worship here in Britain. So to find this avenue in the middle of a wood can only mean one thing, that this is where ancient druids used to worship.
As we leave the Druid's temple, we continue on through the woods. I'm walking along the southern side now, along an old trackway. This was once a very important route, used by generations of people connecting the local villages. Try to imagine the scene. Some 200 years ago, a farmer would have been walking along this track, taking his sheep to market in the nearby town of Cirencester. Sadly, this route is almost forgotten now, only used by the occasional walker. Therefore, the track has fallen into disrepair and is very muddy in some places, although still very beautiful. We're coming towards the end of the walk through the woodland now, and as we get closer towards the edge of the woods, we start to see the rolling Cotswold Hills through the trees. Although we're coming towards the end of the walk through the woods, I still have one more historical feature left to show you. Just as you leave the woods, and just before you get back to the pub, you cross a large meadow. This meadow hides a secret, one that's been hidden for almost 2,000 years, as on this site was a Roman fortification or temple. Built at some point in the 1st to 4th century AD, this Roman-British settlement's purpose still remains a mystery to this day. The site consists of a large square fortification with a number of stone buildings inside. It's of similar design to other Roman sites found in Britain that are known to be temples, but it's also thought it could have been a local garrison for Roman troops. As the remains are all hidden under the surface now, the site's true purpose may remain hidden from us forever. If you look very carefully though, you can still see the outline of the walls in the long grass. We find ourselves back at the pub and the canal tunnel now, as we finish today's walk at the same place we started. I do hope you enjoyed today's episode of Walking with Harper, and I hope you've learned something along the way. If you want to visit Hailey Wood yourself, you can find it near the village of Coates, just outside the Cotswold town of Cirencester. That's it for today, folks, and please join me again soon for another walk with Harper. So, until next time, strap on those boots and get outside, and you never know, maybe you'll bump into me on my next adventure.